Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm in the small city of Fontainebleau in France, and today is my first free day since arriving in France about 5 days ago for a work trip. It's a Saturday morning and I'm looking forward to just exploring the area and seeing what kind of birds I can find. I've already seen several of the common European birds already, so I'll be photographing them as much as I can and I'll put them into this video and we'll see what we can see today. So Fontainebleau is known for two things. The first is the huge castle that you can see in the background behind me there. That's Fontainebleau Castle. This was used by Napoleon during his reign and it's quite historical, and I'll be doing a tour of that later today. That'll be fun. I won't put that in the video. This isn't a history channel. The other thing that Fontainebleau is known for is the large forest that surrounds it. So I'm hoping that maybe today I can get into some forested areas and maybe see some forest birds. We'll see. No great expectations for the day, but this is beautiful scenery. It's a beautiful little town or city. Stick with me. We'll see what we can find. So let's warm up with a common and conspicuous species, this pair of mute swans. This is a bit of a nuisance bird back home in Massachusetts, where they're an invasive species, but they're native here, so it's a bit easier to enjoy their beauty. You may also have noticed the small and attractive duck with them. More about that bird shortly. Another attractive bird that was showing well in this canal was a great crested grebe. I always seem to run into this species when I'm in Europe, so I presume they're fairly abundant, but I always get a little excited when I spot one. This one was successful in catching a small fish, as you can see here. The early morning light and the still surface of the water made for really nice conditions for photography. The most common species in this canal was Eurasian coot, which is quite similar to the American coot. There were about 30 to 40 Eurasian coots swimming around in the canal and walking around in the grass. Okay, so this here is called the Grand Canal. It's just a kind of a long ditch, no disrespect, but it's filled with water, and it was no doubt a great engineering feat back in the day when it was built. And so it's just still water, and it's got a lot of common birds in it, but with the morning light, it's actually a nice opportunity to get some good video. So I spent a little time just videoing some common birds that are found in here. An interesting one that I saw is a wood duck. You might remember in my last episode from back in Massachusetts, we finally got wood duck on the list. Did not expect to see a wood duck here. I don't think it's countable. It says in the guide that they're just introduced exotics, but sometimes it's a little surprising what eBird considers to be established, so we'll see. But I think that's just going to be an exotic, but it was kind of funny to see it. Also a couple of great crested grebes, which are always neat to see, some mute swans. Coots are the most common bird here in the canal, so kind of fun, relaxing birding in these beautiful surroundings. You can see way down in the background there, that's the castle Fontainebleau down there, so it kind of overlooks this Grand Canal. At this location, there were also quite a few smaller birds flitting around in the trees, but of course these were a lot more challenging to photograph. I did manage to get this one decent shot of a Eurasian nuthatch, but no video. I also saw a Eurasian nuthatch last year when I was in France, but I was only able to get poor photos on that occasion. Now this isn't such a great photo, but I do think it's just good enough to add it to the channel life list. I had better luck with Eurasian blue tit when a small flock flew into a tree right next to me. To my American eyes, these look like chickadees that have been given an upgraded paint job. Very attractive little birds. I was also pleased to get a bit of video of a marsh tit, which is a much plainer bird, but happens to be another new one for the channel life list. Here are a couple of Eurasian moorhens, another common bird in Europe that's found in small ponds and public parks, often consorting with coots. They're closely related to common gallinule, and that's a bird I was excited to see recently on my home patch back in Massachusetts. Back in the canal, a great cormorant flew in and landed on the water. In the US, this species is found only along the ocean, but it seems that in Europe this is not the case, as we're quite far inland here in Fontainebleau. Another common bird flitting around the trees here was short-toed tree creeper, which looks a lot like the brown creeper found in North America. Again, it was difficult to photograph them, and I only managed a few so-so shots, but good enough to add to the channel list. Common wood pigeons are very common in Europe and can be found in almost any park with a lot of trees. They often perch inside the tops of trees, so they aren't so easy to photograph well, but this one was good enough to perch on this house at the foot of the Grand Canal. Wood pigeons are quite large, by the way, much larger than rock pigeons. Okay, so after birding the area around the Grand Canal for a couple of hours, I came over to the grounds of the castle proper. You can see Fontainebleau Castle there in the background, looking pretty spectacular. So that water in front of it is called the Carp Pond, well-known pond right off the castle there. And there's some common birds on the water here, so I'll do a little filming around this area and see if I can pick up some more birds. But I would say the birding here is so-so, but you know, the scenery and the views and everything are spectacular, and it's a nice day, so I'm having a good time. So let's see what else we can find here. I've got a couple more hours to bird. The Eurasian coots hanging around the carp pond right in front of the castle are extremely tame. This is iPhone footage taken from extremely short range. This cute little guy was clearly looking for a handout. You can see the large and rather odd feet that coots have. Black-headed gulls are pretty common around Fontainebleau Castle. They are small gulls with red bills and feet. This group was perched on a structure in the middle of the carp pond and were at a bit of a distance. Black-headed gull is a species that shows up as a regular vagrant in Massachusetts, but I haven't managed to see one there yet. I did get some closer looks a bit later, as I had this one perched on top of a fountain. And then also this one at point-blank range on a railing. Here are two more great cormorants perched on top of that same structure in the middle of the carp pond, with Fontainebleau Castle in the background. Eurasian magpie is a common and attractive species in Europe, and I spent a fair amount of time and effort trying to get some decent footage. They seemed to be rather camera shy, as they kept flying away as soon as I raised my camera, even when I tried to lift it up slowly and unobtrusively. This is something that I've also noticed with crows, and I suspect that it's a sign of intelligence, as it means that the bird is noticing not just how close I am, but whether I seem to be doing something threatening or just passing by. I was amused by this fountain with a statue of Diana, the Roman goddess of the hunt, and her hunting dogs. This one is a replica, but the original was made back in the early 1600s. Nice to know they had a sense of humor about things back then. Here's another very common bird, a Eurasian blackbird. They're closely related to American robins. Here's another little clip of Eurasian moorhen, showing nicely against the fallen leaves. I was excited when this gray heron flew by right over my head. I watched it and saw it land some distance away, and I managed to track it down and get this footage. That's another new one for the channel life list. Gray herons are clearly very closely related to great blue herons. I suspect that it would be difficult to tell them apart, in fact, since the difference in their coloring is pretty subtle. Of course, the ranges don't overlap. I'm always pleased to get some footage of a small bird when I'm in Europe, as they tend to be difficult to photograph, especially when I have limited time for birding. So it was nice to find this common chaffinch out in the open, even though they are, as the name suggests, quite common. Fontainebleau is named for a natural spring that provides good drinking water, which apparently still exists on the castle grounds. This may or may not be it. Carrion crow is yet another very common bird, and it seemed like there was always some of them around. They're quite noisy. I'm sure they've been featured as background noise in more than one clip in this video. Canada goose is an introduced species in Europe. I don't think they have become quite as common in Europe as they are in North America, and that's probably a good thing. That was the last bird that I saw at Fontainebleau, but I did want to show a few additional birds that I saw a few days earlier in my trip from a nearby location. I was staying at a conference hotel in a rather rural area not too far from Fontainebleau. The grounds of this hotel were actually pretty birdy. The problem was I had very little time to get out with my camera. Here's my only decent shot of European robin, a good-looking little bird that's more easily seen than heard. And here are a few shots of a great tit, another attractive bird related to chickadees and titmice. This gray wagtail dropped in briefly, and I was able to grab a few quick shots. We don't have wagtails in North America, so I always enjoy seeing them. And here's a Eurasian green woodpecker. I think this bird has the loudest call of any bird that I heard on this trip. I got a lousy photo of this species on my last tryptophans and didn't add it to the channel life list. I am going to add it this time, as this photo isn't too bad. This rose-ringed parakeet landed at the very top of a tree, and this is a highly cropped photo. Last year I was able to get some great video of this species from the Jardin des Plantes in Paris, so I'll just show a little bit of that footage here. And the last species I have to show is this little group of Eurasian collared doves perched on an aerial. One more for the channel life list. Okay, well, I'm unfortunately running out of time to bird here at Fontainebleau Castle. Need to get back to my hotel and check out because I'm changing hotels today. But it's been a great morning here. I've really enjoyed the scenery and the birds that I've seen. It's been mostly common European birds, of course, but I hope you've enjoyed seeing those. So thanks for sticking with me through this little interlude here in France. I am, of course, going to be heading back to Massachusetts soon to finish out my 250 bird challenge. I think you need about 6 more species by the end of the year in Massachusetts, so I think the odds are in my favor, but you never know. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.